Just give it one more minute and then we'll start. Sound good? Start from the numbers are kind of. Yeah, okay. All right, welcome everyone. So this is the TRIG Regulation Implementation Group focused on outreach. And just as a reminder, this group, the mission or the purpose of this group is to have CARB and industry staff and representatives work together to identify strategies for how to do outreach for the Advanced Clean Fleet Regulation. We get together to discuss different strategies, get feedback from the panel, and also identify where we can, have partnerships or leverage each other's efforts. So thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to hand it off. So last meeting we had some discussion on the media campaign. So we have lots of strategies for doing advanced clean fleet outreach. And one of the key things is going to be our media campaign, which is going to start in the next few months. And we're working with the TRIG to identify the right messaging, to get feedback on what resonates with folks, and get recommendations. So I'm sorry if this seems like a painful process, but it's really important that we get your feedback so that we know what's going to really get people's attention, what are the right words to use. So we really appreciate the feedback that we received from the last meeting. It is going to take several iterations to, it's going to be an iterative process, I guess. So we're working with our comps folks, we're working with our program folks, we're working with you all, and Melissa's going to go through kind of where we are now, give you a status and get your feedback.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Yes, I'm Melissa Muser. If you didn't hear about the campaign, you can go back to the last TRIG meeting where I gave an overview of what we're doing there. Like Anne-Marie said, we've been working on messaging. We took into consideration the great comments that were provided in the last meeting. And we've got some base messaging that we wanted to just get your reaction. If it is hitting the mark, if it is understandable, if it's using the right kind of words. And so I'm going to take you through just a couple sample messaging. And let me just share my screen really quick. Okay. Okay. This is not at the beginning. Okay, great. So I have a few slides, and what I was thinking we could do is, you'll see at the bottom, I've numbered the slides. And I've done that because I'm hoping that, we can have a discussion about the messaging for those participants, but then for anybody else and anybody, if you have thoughts, then please let us know in the chat. Just make sure to put the slide number before your comment so that we know what you're talking about when we later look at comments. So I'm going to give us a little bit of time to read this, but basically we have messaging that's sort of a thread that runs throughout everything that we're going to do. And our first thought is that we have a base slogan, California Zero Emission Fleet Regulations may affect you, and then what we want you to do, which is be in compliance and report your trucks today. We also have some taglines that we're playing around with, something that would perhaps give the why. This would be very secondary, it would be at the bottom and only in some messaging. But two options are cleaner trucks for a healthier California, and California's future is zero emissions. So just give you a minute to kind of digest that, but I would love any thoughts that you have on this.
Just maybe one or two things from me. Bear in mind, please, like we have the cleaner trucks for healthier California. This is a campaign, yes, to reach out to the regulated community. But, always, at least here's what I do when I think of these media campaigns. We've gone through one, I always think about the billboard, right? That's the simplest, plainest thing that you're gonna see, and everybody's gonna see that. You don't control whether it's a fleet seeing it or, whatever the case is. So we also certainly want a tagline that resonates to some degree with everybody. So, like I said, I always try and keep in mind kind of the lowest common denominator as I'm looking at some of this messaging stuff. And the lowest common denominator, again, here being a billboard.
I don't
And
mind.
it's a branding issue to think about. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't mind hopping in. Afternoon, everybody. So a couple thoughts for me. First on the slogan, instead of be in compliance, I kind of like the idea of just stay in compliance. I think we want to reinforce that people are trying to do the right things, even though it can be difficult. So that might just be a small, subtle change. And then as it relates to the tagline, and I'm only speaking for my audience, we tend to deal with a pretty conservative crowd and folks that are frustrated by the regulation. So I think trying to take away the idea of cleaner and this is the future, because not everybody necessarily identifies with that line of thinking, and trying to make it more about the practical nature of what we're doing. I think trying to take some of the politics maybe out of it might be a good idea, because I think if knowing some of my customers that are frustrated, if they read that, they'd probably just shred it and throw it away right away. I don't know that it would land the way you guys are looking, but just a couple thoughts.
James, and since you brought it up, I didn't want to say it and kind of steer things. I'm not real crazy about California's future to zero emissions. We've heard previously from this group talk about the here and now, not the future. We are getting, bear in mind too, we're getting input from all sides internally. So I'll agree with you there. I also, and my boss and Melissa can both attest to this, when we were talking about this a couple of days ago, I think most of us said, the regulated community in general is not gonna like cleaner trucks for a healthier California. And we get that. I've dealt with this for 13 years now. I've dealt with fleets, and it was worse in a lot of ways way back in the early truck and bus days because it was so new. I understand that, there's gonna be people that are like, ugh. But as I said, when I look at a billboard, one, they can't throw away a billboard. And what we're trying to do, or what we were trying to do, and I'm pointing this out to say, again, try and keep this in mind as suggestions come about. With something like this slogan, we're trying to make it as innocuous as possible. I realize that saying that to some people in the industry turns them off. But we tried to reach kind of a compromise. So if you've got a compromise again, that maybe, a suggested message that would be a little more comforting to the regulated community, that would resonate with, like I said, a person reading a billboard or hearing a radio ad. Okay, you can't control who that is. And it's a good thing for us to reach to all those parties so that, the unregulated person gets an idea kind of what's going on. So, we'd love to hear some, maybe a suggestion on something a little bit that you might think is a better compromise. Don't have to hear it now, but please, just like, you did last week, get us information, because that information last week was invaluable. It was awesome.
I think what jumps to me is if you were to say something like working together to achieve zero emissions. Everybody's got to have skin in the game, right? We've all got to work together. So it's just something along those lines. But yeah, I'll think more about it.
Like working together, there may be a way to fit that in.
Any other panel members just have reactions to these? I want to discuss.
I just had a question for clarification. Hi, everyone. This is Marissa Brown from the Green Lighting Institute. Can CARB re-clarify who the audience is and like what the communications output for this will be? I heard billboard, but
Yeah, so the audience is regulated parties of advanced clean fleets. And the types of media that we'll be doing will be radio, cable, we'll be doing digital media, billboards, LED, truck signs,
Publications.
trade publications, yes,
Radio, based the radio.
yes, and a variety of interviews,
Pre-roll,
pre-roll,
yeah.
email, direct email, social media,
There's a lot.
pretty much the mix, yeah, quite a few things.
Great, thank you, that's helpful.
Thank you. All right, please continue to add your comments into the chat, and I'm gonna move on. And you'll see that we're using these throughout all the messaging that I'm gonna show you. Okay, so I purposely made these really ugly because I want us to focus just on what it says. So we have a sample of general messaging. So this is basically getting out who needs to comply, and what that entails. So I'll give you a second to read it, but it's our slogan, it's our you know, what weight vehicles, and are we characterizing that in a way that is appropriate? And you know, who needs to comply? The idea that there's flexibility through exemptions and extensions, and that we stay in compliance. I like that, stay in compliance and report your trucks today. I'll give you a minute.
Melissa, our team, I dropped this in the chat as well. For many of my clients, that thing that says be in compliance or report your trucks today is too much like an order. And I think if there is a way to say, does this apply to you? Check truck, ZEV truck stop to learn more or something, but this notion that it has to be your only way to learn about it is to report your trucks. I just worry about that.
And I'll jump in, Chris, here too. Again, bear in mind that these messages are, how should I put it? There are a number of different messages that we would use in different instances. So that's just one of the messages that you might see in a, as one of two or three on, let's say, a print ad or something like that. So, it is we do look at it a little bit more holistically. And, we've heard from this group that using that word compliance, and I like the stay in compliance. I like that a lot. But using that word compliance is a way to get people's attention. Again, that's one of the things that I took away from like 2 or 3 meetings ago. So again, it's not the in your face big message on a billboard, better be in compliance or else. But it's one of several things we're trying to integrate in there. So again, I really like James's suggestion of that stay. It's kind of more encouraging that you guys are doing a good job.
And I do agree with you on all of that. I think the thing that gets me on this is that the thing says report your trucks today.
Yeah.
So that sounds like the order. Report, your only way you can do this is to report your truck today. So if there's a way that we can be enticing rather than ordering, and then I see Cecile has her hand up, so I'll stop talking.
Oh, no, I just have a comment on slide number 2, which says here, flexibility through exemptions and extensions may be available. I mean, we understand there is that, but it could be misleading in that, it's not easy to get an exemption and an extension. You have to go through the different processes. So you really have to plan ahead of time to request for an exemption. Will there be sort of a clear direction on the exemption? So last time we discussed this to get an exemption. So far, it was like a few months ago that there's only one entity so far who submitted for an exemption. So I don't know if the number has changed, but it's just that it's a great bullet point, but it's just to manage expectations to everybody that it's not as easy getting an exemption and an extension. It's just that for me, like then there has to be clear, strict guidelines from CARB so that people can prepare ahead of time if you can't meet the deadlines. That's all.
I like that, prepare ahead of time. Now we have another, we do down almost to the bottom. flexibility through exemptions and extensions may be available. Maybe it's, flexibility through exemptions and extensions, plan now, something like that, plan ahead. Because I think that we want to, I mean, we built most of our regulations, certainly on trucks, with flexibilities. That's, I always used to tell people about truck and bus. It was really simple at first. But then, we added a lot of flexibility. It became a lot more complicated, but we wanted to provide fleets with some flexibility. So we like to emphasize that. But I really like the plan ahead piece.
And Cecile, they have approved one
Yeah.
exemption, so there has been an official approval and they are reviewing several others. Just to follow up on your comment.
Very recent.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think it could be stay in compliance, go to truck stop for more information or something. It's not like report, but it is, and we will have all that information, Melissa's working on revising the website, so it's very clear and easy to navigate, but maybe we just send them there rather than say report your trucks today.
Yeah, I've got one thought too, guys, maybe adding a graphic where you describe the vehicles. I've actually talked to a lot of private companies in the last several months, and believe it or not, there are some who don't really understand GVWR or really know this stuff, or maybe it's somebody's mother or daughter who wants to look out for them. So just maybe adding a picture of the smallest, 8,500 pound to the biggest, and just trying to create that visual and range for them might be helpful.
Absolutely, James, completely agree.
Okay, yes, that's actually, yes, we are planning to do a wide variety of vehicle images in here, and depending on the location. If we're near a port, we do maybe more drayage. But that the way that we're characterizing 2B through 8 vehicles greater than 8,500 pounds GVWR, is there a better way we could get that across without saying all of that? We want to be precise, but it is kind of clunky.
Yeah, so Sean here, quick suggestion. The word commercial may make a difference there. So people understand you're looking at commercial trucks, and not to be too wordy, but it's from, commercial pickup trucks to big rigs. So that may give people a better vision of, you're talking about commercial vehicles. You're not talking about privately operated vehicles, right? So commercial vehicles from pickup trucks up to big rigs. That might give a little bit of better parameters for you.
Yeah, no, I like that. Melissa, just to make sure that we track this as we're looking at clean truck check, that of course doesn't apply to clean truck check. So this is specific, that would be specific. And I'm just bringing it up. That would be specific to this regulation. I think that's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking nice.
I know, but I want to make sure that
Okay.
we all keep that in mind as we develop a message and don't mix that in somewhere else.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any other comments before I go to the next one?
Just so Sean here is one other quick suggestion. What I found is going out and doing training, whether you fit that in as a tagline or how you fit it in, but I typically, because depending on where these billboards are, folks that are interstate or other fleet owners from out of state may not key that it applies to them. So, the somewhere in there, the tagline that, when on California roads, vehicles need to comply with California law. So that's kind of maybe a softer way of getting people to understand, if they're seeing billboards and they're driving in California, oh, okay, I'm on California roads, I got to comply with California law. So just another suggestion that may fit into the mix of things that we're chatting about.
Right in California.
Great. Okay, thank you. All right, next one. This one focuses on reporting. Using a lot of the same wording as before, but we're giving specific instructions for each type of regulated party. So really the bullet points are the key here.
Yeah, so Sean Edgar here, so maybe just a suggestion. Reporting, I don't know, that captures most people's attention. A lot of people will think, I'm already registered with the state, but I'm registered at DMV, so why would I have to report or register again? So somewhere in here, you may want to indicate new CARB registration requirements, somewhere that in the messaging, so people key on, A, it's a new program, B, it's registration, because some people reporting, they may confuse reporting and registration, so new CARB registration deadlines or requirements, that might be a better way to phrase it.
And let me ask you something that we have been struggling with a little tiny bit in the last few days as we think about it. You know, and again, a little bit of context, and some of you are certainly well aware of the other regulations. And in the media contract, today we are just talking about ACF, and this group is really about advanced clean fleet. But we do cover clean truck check specifically. There's a piece for clean truck check. There's specifically a piece for off-road, and there's a general message as well. Now, one of the things that we've kind of been struggling with a little bit is we don't want to mix that general message in. You know, we need to say, you know, you might be subject to these regulations. You might need to report, whatever the case is. What you just said, you know, reporting isn't you know, yeah, you might be reported to DMV, but new CARB regulations. Now, new CARB regulations in part, that's perfect for that general message, right? Because we've got, as you know, as well as any of us, we've got multiple new regulations out there, CTC and this being the biggest, okay? So is there, you know, I mean, maybe here for clean truck check, now I'm doing it. For ACF, you know, we say CARB's advanced clean fleet regulation you know, requires you to report or something like that. But does that sound too specific? I mean, does that play on the billboard? And even if there's not an answer, I'm just trying to, you know, to throw out some of the things that we talk about in this slightly broader context as well. And I know you think that way a lot, John.
Yeah, so Sean here, yeah, I'll take a stab at that, Bruce. So if I'm understanding, the billboard is going to be driving traffic to the website. And I think, you know, going back 15 years ago, plus or minus, when you branded truck stop for people to go and get information about trucks, I think that was very positive. The one thing is we addressed the multiple regulations. One thing I would suggest, and I think that was a regular feature of the truck stop at one time, was the user whose traffic from the billboard or pump toppers or whatever else you're going to do is driven to the truck stop website. There need to be some easy to read graphics that even a guy like me can understand, that the graphics say, I have this type of truck. And so kind of the menu approach of trying to lead people within. So I think the key is, Bruce, driving traffic to the website. Truck stop was a good branded word, I think is good. And then when you get them successfully from the billboard to go into the website, because they understand the message, which is new. So new is one, registration is a part of that. And I like the James contribution of working together, right? So somehow when you crystallize that message and you drive the traffic to the website, that the user will be able to pretty quickly identify, oh, this is my type of truck, and this is, I do travel in California, and be able to choose from, you know, the multiple graphics of CTC, ACF, truck and bus. So hopefully I'm helping you just to say, I think if the goal of the billboard is, obviously you can't capture, you know, these complicated regulations we've worked on for a couple decades together, Bruce, you know, we can't capture that on a billboard, but you can, once you drive the traffic to the website, I think make it a better user experience for that user to be able to identify those multiple programs and be able to get more information. Does that help a little bit?
Oh, it does. And first of all, absolutely. In fact, we've got a few very good, very talented people, including Melissa, working on changes to the website to get, I mean, and you know, truck stops morphed many times over the years, always trying to make it better. And I think we're really on a great path to do what you're saying right now. I guess part of, and I'm opening this up to everybody too, is because there are many instances where the campaign, you know, we're putting something into a publication, and we really want to address maybe specifically advanced clean fleets. But is there, you know, where going back to this message, you know, some places it's good to keep it more broad probably, and we're doing that. Some places to target. Are there times where you see that targeted, you know, ACF regulation, you need to do this, again, this, you know, rather than new ACF, advanced clean fleet regulation, rather than just new regulations? Are there times maybe where that targeted message may be more appropriate or more effective? And again, I don't necessarily always expect an answer out of everybody right now, but if anybody has input, you know, that's what we want to hear. So your point's very well taken, Sean, absolutely. And I kind of, you know, I mean, again, that is that generic message. You create curiosity, right? You create just that first, hey, you got to do something. You might.
And then you drive them to the website, and that's where you give them very, very quick, clear information. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Moving along. Here's another one. This one is about helping fleets. Same general messaging. The bullets are what's new here. I'll give you guys a minute to look those over. We're highlighting here the fact that we are helping small fleets, and especially drayage, that there are incentives that really cover quite a bit of the trucks. Cal Fleet Advisor for one-on-one assistance, and the idea of flexibilities, which we can definitely work on that wording. I like the suggestions so far.
Yeah, I think one piece of feedback for me, I've had a number of customers who've tried to apply and get incentive funding and have been denied or not been able to get through that process where it seemed clear. So I think it's really tricky when we talk about incentives covering a lot of the cost. I think that might lead people down a path that's not positive. So maybe trying to find a different way to suggest that there are incentives, but not making it seem so comprehensive.
But yeah, James, that's really right. It's something I've always tried to keep in mind, maybe not always successfully, but we don't want to give people a false impression that, hey, you just snap your fingers and the truck and a brand new truck appears all paid for. No, there's a process, and it's possible you might not even qualify for the process. Well, most people. So yeah, very well paid.
And then one other question where we talk about the one-on-one assistance, the free one-on-one assistance, what is the actual format? How do they get that assistance?
So you're saying we need to say it's Cal Fleet Advisor rather than just general one-on-one?
Yeah, I think we need to be real specific on where to go, how to go, and what that looks like. You know, I know one of my customers went to an event in the Bay Area maybe last week, 2 weeks ago, thinking he was going to be able to get one-on-one help, and it was like he said, I got 10 minutes and I couldn't even get my question out, and it was time to move on. And so just, you know, again, managing expectations. We want to help, we want to give people information, but we don't want people to feel like they can pick up the phone and all their answers are going to be right there, because it's not simple, right? We all know that. And I just trying to keep it reasonable is important to me.
And this is slightly an aside, but maybe a lot of folks on the call may not know. What we're really referring to specifically in this case is our Cal Fleet Advisor program, which is really one-on-one assistance on the technical side. And then of course we offer, you know, things like the hotline, Zev Fleet email, where there's more of that one-on-one assistance over here. So maybe again, point well taken is, how do we differentiate that? How do we make sure they understand what it is that they can take advantage of? And a lot of that is pushing people to the website, as we've heard previously.
So James, were you saying that people are not having success with Cal Fleet Advisor?
No, I think he's talking about the Dublin.
He was talking about that.
So,
Oh,
the one stop. Right, James?
Yeah, talking about actually getting their hands on free money. Specifically too, it's really hard and it seems straightforward in some cases and it's not. So just if customers all the time will ask me, hey, can I get grants for this? And the question is, well, you may qualify, you may not. If I tell them, oh yeah, there's going to be a grant, you're going to be okay. Like it's that false sense of security. And I think people really need to dig in and do the homework and plan for this. And they have to educate themselves. And if it seems easy or like it's not going to be a big deal, I don't think people will educate themselves the way they need to, because it is complicated and difficult, right? So I would encourage like educate and try to push that messaging of, here's the information, educate yourself, become aware, that sort of thing.
Well, we've got incentives may cover up to 90% of a truck's MSRP. And as you know, the ultimate expert on the programs are us, CalStart. But the person that really puts that paperwork through is the truck dealer. So maybe does that say, talk to your local dealership or something like that? Because that's the person that's going to, again, put that paperwork through, that's going to apply for that voucher, etc. I mean, a fleet calling us and saying, hey, can I get some money? I mean, as you know, what we're gonna say, we have these incentive programs, you may be eligible, and most fleets have been eligible, and a lot of fleets have gotten money, but yes, there's always an exception. But that's what we're gonna tell them. That's not what they want to hear. They want to hear somebody say, not sure, we got to put the voucher through, and that's the dealership. Would it be worthwhile trying to fit those extra 2 or 3 words in there?
I think it probably helps. And then I also think in the case of companies like mine, we do sell truck chassis, but
Yeah.
we don't process the paperwork because we're really a body company. And so you want to be as clear as you can with people. It's not just as simple as, hey, go buy a truck or go buy truck mounted equipment and you're going to be able to go qualify for a voucher. I'm pushing my customers every single day to read the regulation, to educate themselves, to really understand, and don't just take a couple of steps and think it's okay. So yeah, I do think pointing people to the experts is important, and the source of funds obviously is the key. So just something along those lines.
I'm just curious, James. So someone goes to the dealer, buys a cab and chassis, and then comes to use an upfitter.
Sometimes that happens, but oftentimes I'll sell a turnkey package. I'll buy a truck from a local dealer myself. We'll mount our body on it at the factory, and the customer will pay us for the whole thing. And so it depends where I buy the truck. I may buy it from a local dealership. I may buy it from a different dealership. I've got a lot of out-of-state dealerships that may not be plugged into the program, right? And so I just think there's lots of ways to access and acquire trucks.
But if you don't go through the paperwork, who does? And I'll stop this off conversation, but I am curious.
Yeah, in some cases, the customer would have to follow that chain through. In some cases, they wouldn't qualify, depending. And we try and be very transparent about these things, but I don't want to give anybody a false sense of security, right? It's not.
Oh, I get that.
Yep.
all right, that's helpful. Keep in mind, a lot of what we're gonna need to do here is we'll have to be very, very brief, and we won't be able to be specific about where you get types of help.
Yeah.
We're gonna be doing that on the website, but there's definitely some wordsmithing that we can do here. I like all the suggestions so far. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This one is all about just the market, what you'll find, total cost of ownership, benefits of cleaner, heavy duty vehicles, the number of models, the range that you may be getting up to, the fact that charging is available now, but it's very rapidly being planned, and that's the benefit of lower total cost of ownership. Give you a second to look at that.
I don't mind hopping in here, guys, and I hate always maybe sounding like the negative voice, but I would be really careful with this total cost of ownership conversation, because especially in the classes that I deal in, the science is not proving that out. And so I think if we're going to market, if we want to market around what they can do, what classes they're available in, those sorts of things, I think that's great. That's transparent. It's real. But I wouldn't want to leave anybody thinking it's going to be a lower TCO for the stuff that we deal in, because the science doesn't bear that out yet.
Chris?
I was gonna say kind of the same thing, although, yes, these things are true, they're also true under extraordinarily optimistic conditions. And so I think we just want to be really careful. There are 160 models available. They are not across most classes and uses. Up to 500 miles range, yes, if you're driving one of the fuel cell trucks, but then we don't talk about hydrogen stations. We jump into fast charging rapidly being planned. Planned, yes, put in the ground and functional, not so much. It takes it a while. So I gotta say too, I love the marketing feel of it. I am a marketing person, but I think that we need a little dose of reality in this.
Except, Chris, one thing I want to point out is that Nikola's batteries do get close to 350 miles and Teslas do get close to 500 miles. So yes, does every truck, but I don't think it's an unreasonable statement. So, and I know what, I talk to all the fleets all the time too. No, nothing gets that. I can point them to fleets that'll say, no, it really does. I can point them to fleets that say TCO is great for us. So, I get the be cautious, but I don't think we're being misleading.
I just wanted to add that we cannot find electric vehicles for ZEV for our wastewater operations available right now. And then for heavy duty, for the trash trucks that are class 8, we're testing them, but it's a up and down because we're testing. The batteries are just too heavy. So, the payload is an issue for us because there's a limitation. So they are available, it's just not an equivalent to replacing, a natural gas truck like that. So,
That's the whole flexibility thing. So maybe we need to make sure we combine the messages correctly. Say, yeah, these are available, but there's flexibility kind of if they're not, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I know that, and someone was talking, I think it was James, about putting pictures, the graphic. We may even tailor those graphics to the medium, right? If we are advertising in, a government fleet magazine, we'll probably put like some wastewater pumpers, put a trash truck, something like that. Because we do want to get that message across that this is for you, and again, tailor the message in that ad somewhere.
Yeah, I think if we're going to market, we should be marketing specifically towards the areas where we think there might be success for people that are adopting. And to Cecile's point, we should be transparent with customers in the wastewater and trash segments and these other vocational type segments where there's nothing available, tow trucks, et cetera. And let people know maybe that's where the exemptions and waivers are available. But, let's market to where we think there is a chance of adoption that will work. And then let's just kind of be honest with people about where it's not ready yet. I think the more earnest and transparent we can be and honest we can be about the pros and the cons, the more people will trust the messaging. If they feel like it's one-sided, I think they're not going to trust it the same way.
But and I get that. I would also say that part of our job is to make sure that everybody's aware of the regulation. And yes, I know maybe in tow trucks there are some issues, although I always think there's a middle ground between what the industry says and what the dealers and what the manufacturers say, right? So I see what you're saying, but that's part of driving them to truck stop and making them aware. Our main purpose of, of what may or may not work, our main purpose here is there's something that applies to you. And maybe there's an exemption. Maybe there won't be that exemption in 3 years or 5 years. So again, it's a balancing act for us.
So Bruce, hearing what everybody's saying and seeing the chat from the panelists, and the participants also ask if they can chat, and I haven't seen that come through, but I think you can. So feel free to put your feedback in there too, in the Q&A or the chat. But hearing everything that was said, I think that this message market, the zero emission, medium and heavy duty vehicles are available now and more coming soon is appropriate. And then a tagline of visiting the ZEV truck stop to see what's available. And I am just hearing really stay away from these things right now. Maybe this is something we roll out later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't capture all of that, but I'll go back and
I thought it's in the chat.
Okay, great.
About many vehicle or many models available now and more are coming or something, but yeah, it's in the chat.
Yeah, and Chris, I think I've actually tended to be along those same lines of thinking recently. It's like, is this a little too much marketing now? Maybe in an ad, maybe in a full page ad or something like that. There may be an appropriate place for it. But as I said earlier, these are all these are pieces of a puzzle that we put together. That's not going to be on a billboard. But no, your point's very, very well taken. Maybe, right now, as I said a moment ago, what we have to do is get the message out. There's a rule there.
Agreed. That's why I'd stay away from this. My early days at the Fuel Cell Partnership, when Melissa was there too, the members kept saying to me, stop being such a cheerleader, stop being such a cheerleader. And I totally disagreed with them. That was my job, to be the cheerleader. And now that I'm older and wiser, I see the wisdom of not being a cheerleader. So we can be positive and we can be encouraging, but yeah. I think this is one that we say they're available now, more are coming, visit these websites to see what they are. And leave the bullets out of it.
You force them to truck stop, that's what they can, that's their, right? So you force them to truck stop.
I think the most exciting thing that we have going on right now are those maps of all of the stations that are being planned, developed, funded, going in the ground. I think the idea that there are going to be quite a few, particularly now that the critical path that was awarded, I think that that's an exciting thing to see, is that you maybe buying one of these trucks may not be necessary for you to build the infrastructure. It's coming too. And that's the thing I would really emphasize.
I like that. That's a great idea.
Okay. Great. I don't want to take up all the time. So this is our last one. If we were to do a billboard, which we really can just say one short statement and then point to the website, have some images of trucks. Here are a couple options to throw out. They're pretty much the same, but I'd love to hear any other ideas that you have. Please put them in the chat of what a billboard might say. The idea is we want to grab people, make sure that they're aware if they potentially may be affected by advanced clean fleets, and we want them to go to truck stop to find out more. Something that causes them to read it, stop, think about it for themselves.
I think someone suggested earlier putting the word commercial in there, especially since this is such a general, the use of billboards that anybody could be reading it.
I always like questions on billboards. I think when you see a question, it makes you stop and think. When you see a sentence, it's just like, okay, maybe, maybe not.
With your question be?
Oh, I typed it in the chat too, so you'd have it for posterity. I would say, does California's advanced clean fleets apply to you? Question mark. find out here? Or learn more here?
Yeah, Chris, I like your idea of a question. I might even say something like, advanced clean fleet, are you on a path to zero emission? Or something like that. But yeah, questioning people is a good way to do it because then they're going to wonder why they need to know.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Please continue to send in your thoughts.
So it does occur to me that the folks that are there in the CARB boardroom may not be able to see how lively this chat is. So Melissa, you have got a lot of great comments in this chat.
And I'm really excited to read through them.
I just tuned over to it.
We've seen some keeping up.
And I'm so sorry that the folks who are playing the home game are not able to see these comments from the panelists and when I don't know, Anne Marie, if there is time that we might be able to review these so everybody else can hear what or so the other folks can see what some of these ideas are coming through the chat.
Yeah, I think that'll be fine.
Yeah, maybe at the end. Great idea.
And panelists, I have to tell you, I have to get off at 2 o'clock. I'm so sorry to leave this early, so I will not be reading the chat out loud.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you, everybody. I am going to stop sharing, I think. And we can move on to the next item.
All right, let me share here 1 second. All right, everyone, so I wanted to share this document with you guys. So here it is. Are you guys able to see it? It says next stop to provide outreach, or next steps to provide outreach. So I just wanted to talk to you. We're always looking for ideas and avenues to provide outreach to folks. We took a look at the comments that were received during our last TRIG outreach meeting. Some of the comments and ideas we thought were great. Wanted to share these with you guys and kind of let me go through them. We'll share them with you guys and then get some ideas. Feel free to add things in the chat as well. And so the first one was connecting several of the folks that have commented is to connect with new truck dealers, truck committees, and this would include American Truck Dealers and National Equipment Association to provide ACF training, ACF fleet tools, and ACF fact sheets. The other one was fleet management, so that would be folks that manage fleets, ordering fleet vehicles. For this one, we would ask for some assistance from outreach to what you guys think would be a good avenue to kind of approach these folks. And then also what type of training is needed. We have quite a bit of training out there. We have a lot of webinars. We've done Q&A sessions on components of ACF. Our joint webinars helpful. We've done some of those. ACF topics. What do you want to see? So kind of if you have any ideas, throw them in the chat, and then we'll open it up here in a second to for the committee members to provide some feedback. And then the last bullet point was reaching out to, we feel like rural communities are important. Reaching out to RCRC can be beneficial. I know I'll hand it off to Bruce. I know he's had some experience with RCRC, but we'll hand it off to Bruce. You can add those ideas.
Thank you. So, yeah, no, just wanted to tee that up. And that was, there was a suggestion. Pardon me, last meeting about working with RCRC, and we've been able to do that at times. I've given presentations to RCRC on different things ages ago. But most recently, and most recently being about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little more, when we were first starting to try and work with the zero emission vehicle regulations, we talked to RCRC and said, you know, we really want your county supervisors and things to be aware of this. And, you know, the reply was, yeah, that's great. And then it was kind of crickets. And I think a big part of that is, as we talked about last week with, you know, with dealerships or anybody, it's getting to the right person. And so, you know, one of the things that we may have even mentioned in the last meeting, but I'm certainly going to bring up again now, is any help we can get from, you know, folks on this, you know, that are on this panel, that they know the right person to go to, maybe can even give us some, you know, an entree, you know, an intro. That's really great. In dealerships, and I apologize, I walked out for a moment. You may have said this, you know, so things like dealerships associations. I think that last time there were 1 or 2 people that may have even said, you know, Bob at this organization or this dealership is a great person to talk to. So any of that kind of information that we may have missed in the past, super helpful. And especially again, with someone with RCRC coming to mind specifically, because we did try and reach out through them, you know, very, very targeted, in a very targeted manner, and we hadn't had any luck. But with that, I'll turn it back to you.
So yeah, thank you, Bruce. Yeah, so if you guys have any comments, ideas, feel free to jump on in and let us know, or if you're out there and want to add them in the chat, feel free to do so.
Yeah, Sean here, I'll take a stab at it. So, you know, Transport Topics, American Trucking Association publication, has a great list of, you know, running list of trade shows across the country. So it seems to me if we know that we've got interstate and international fleets that need to be aware of this, similar to what you did in the 2012 to 2016 timeframe, is that you sent out ARB staff, or you contracted, the UC Davis did some of that work, I did some of that work. So I think if you need to be, you know, get the message out, then, you know, there are, you know, literally, and I'd be happy to scan it and send it over to you, but every Transport Topics has, you know, about 30 trade association meetings coming up in all parts of the country. So I would highly suggest, you know, and I saw board staff came down to Vegas for the Advanced Clean Transportation Expo. So I think that was a good example. You had a booth there, and that was good, but that's, you know, that's Vegas. And what I'm thinking of is, you know, the trucking associations across the country and other vocational associations like the tank truck carriers, the specialized rigging, the truckload carriers association, the transportation and intermediaries association. So there are any number of trucking associations across the country. Some are affiliated with American Trucking Associations, and a bunch are just vocational trucking. I'll scan over the latest Transport Topics that show, you know, 30 or so trade shows coming up over the next 6 months or so that would highly recommend. Part of that is going to have to be the personal touch, and I think having a speakers bureau and sending folks out to where the trucking companies get together is going to be a huge part of success. Borrowing on the experience that I had a part in from, you know, 2012 to 2016 timeframe.
Very good. Thank you so much, Sean. It's good input. Was there anything else anyone else wanted to add?
Sorry, thought I was unmuted. To Sean's point, I think trying to hit the vocational side is important too. He and I were at an event, you know, a couple weeks ago for waste haulers, and you know, specific to the waste industry. Obviously, there's groups focusing on sewer. There's you know, construction associations. I think builders exchanges. We could advertise there. Large construction companies that have big fleets are always looking at projects to bid. any place that these big companies or big fleets are going to be attending these associations, I think it's got to be a personal touch to really get heavy impact. And I think you're going to get that if you're in their world. So yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, James. Anyone else?
Hey, Yusuf, I just want to mention, we're seeing some suggestions in the chat about attaching it to DMV registrations, and we always appreciate that suggestion. It is just not a easy road to go down. So I don't want anybody who's dropping it in there to think we're not listening. We are. We are listening. It's just a tough thing to do.
Nobody knows better than me and Anne Marie.
Art has been trying for years.
And we have with truck and bus and clean truck check.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. That's an excellent point for sure.
Yeah, and Sean Edgar, so a couple other suggestions would be, CSAC, California County Supervisors Association, California. I know League of California Cities weighed in on some of the proceedings, but I think that those public agencies that are going to have to be the ones to approve the massive rate increases that are going to be needed to make this happen as it relates to municipal services. I think the local politicians are the ones through CSAC and League of Cities that I think would be California Special Districts Association is another group that has regular annual meetings that public officials, special districts attend. So I think alerting those public officials to this isn't going to be this is going to be take a lot of time, and it's going to take a lot of resources in terms of infrastructure costs and vehicle costs and that kind of thing, but we're doing it for the public health reasons. I think that kind of messaging to those public agency officials through the different associations I mentioned would be also a positive step.
We've worked with CSAC and League of California Cities. I think I don't know if we had a table at the last event, but yeah, we're definitely making contact with them.
And you're right on about like the boards of supervisors and stuff. And we've heard that from fleets many times. Great, I know I have to do it. My boss doesn't, he thinks I just want to spend some money. And Chris, you were dead on. There's some great, I am looking back through the chat and the comments. James, I was gonna say, and I think someone kind of clarified it. I don't know SWANA and I don't know APWA, so our world's acronyms too. But I see that Cecile said SWANA, at least a solid waste collection. I'm sure those are both really, really, really good ways to reach out. So let me know who that actually is. I always think of CTA, right? And everybody on this call probably thinks CTA, California Trucking Association. Well, there's also the California Transit Association. We deal with them a lot. California Teachers Association, Canadian Trucking Association, and I have to remember where I'm at to have context on those things. So great, thank you guys for the acronyms.
That's why we don't say CTC.
Terrible. I know, yeah, I do it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for all the comments and suggestions. Appreciate it. Let me stop sharing here. So moving on to the next topic on the agenda, which is suggestions for large outreach events that CARB could consider participation in.
Yeah, it was just, we know that there have been several events mentioned today. So if there are events, and we're looking for large events because we don't have, an infinite amount of resources. But if there are large events that you think we should participate in, we would love for you to let us know. So we have some suggestions, but if there's anything else coming up, please send it our way. We do have staff that can participate. We want to make sure it's the right event, and I feel like we kind of know a lot of them, but like some of those vocational events that were mentioned today, I mean, those sound like I don't think we have those on our calendar or our radar. So if there's anything else we should be doing, please let us know.
even associations that have virtual meetings. I
Yeah,
mean, that,
virtual would be great.
yeah, obviously we can leverage virtual,
Be much better.
yeah.
Because we are getting a lot of requests from smaller associations, but if there are some large ones that we could attend, please, we're happy to do that. Feel free to just email us whenever.
Yeah, so go ahead and drop those in the chat or provide comments, that would be great. The next topic is the TRIG outreach group meeting frequency. Just kind of wanted to discuss that with you. Anne Marie, did you want to add anything on that, or I mean?
Well, I think that, I mean, we've been meeting monthly. I know it's more than the other TRIG groups are meeting, but I think so far it's been very effective. The campaign messaging may need more feedback, Melissa, right? So maybe for the next few months, we would still want to meet monthly, but after that, if there's a desire to go to every other month, we're open to that, so. And maybe they don't have to be hour and a half, maybe they could be a little bit shorter, but I do think we're gonna need some feedback on the messaging for sure. And I don't know if there are gonna be other things that come up that we need to, but I think for now, we're gonna say monthly for a little bit and then maybe go every other month.
Yeah, especially.
Yeah. Mhm.
Uh,
Does Melissa wanna go through some of the
Yeah.
comments?
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I'm just gonna open up. See if I can do this. Can I? Maybe you can help this.
Yeah.
How do I share my screen?
You wanna
with
just
these?
open up my chat or?
Yeah, I'll just take those, yeah. I think if I go like that, will everybody see it large? Can you all see that?
I just see us in the word.
Okay. Oh darn. Okay,
You want the chat open again?
yeah. Oh wait, go down here,
Yeah.
but we can't see it, can we? You guys see it?
No.
On your screens?
You wanna just read some of them?
Yeah, okay, let's
That'd
do
be
that.
weird.
All right. So let me just go through and highlight a few. You know, some people are saying there should be a more urgent call to action. Act now. The tagline seems a little bit too much like an order. So we'll have to find that balance there. Using the word truck instead of fleet, that's a good one to talk about. Is there a preference on that? I know we've kind of gone back and forth on whether we say truck or fleet.
You know, and then you're right, we have talked about it. I think, I do kind of like truck. I think it might. Again, be a message specific or a medium specific thing, you know, there, but a government fleet magazine, we might say, keep your fleet. Trucker magazine, we may, you know, El Truckero, for which we've advertised in before, keep your truck. So that might be a variant
Okay.
that we want to use.
Okay, Chris is saying, does advanced clean fleets apply to you? Visit some truck stop to learn
I
more
like that.
about California's move to zero emission trucks.
Yeah.
That's good. I like this one. Use the word Eli. Use apply to instead of affect. So does advanced clean fleets apply to you? Let's see. Do you have a fleet that meets these standards? CART wants to work with you to make sure you stay in compliance with these new changes for a cleaner California. Chris Walker, trucks and tailpipes are so yesterday. Learn how to upgrade your trucks today. Go to notailpipes.com.
Some variant in that.
Talking vehicle class is great, and maybe also change it to 3/4 ton or higher.
Yeah,
Or
good
something.
point, really, really good point.
It brings it more simply.
By the way, there's some really creative people out there on this call, I appreciate it, in a good way, in only the best way.
California zero emission fleet regulations may affect you. Any fleets that meet the following have new standards to meet. Flexibility through exemption is misleading. Because you have to be in compliance to file for the exemptions. So. To make this statement less of an order, we might say be in compliance by reporting your trucks today instead of be in compliance and report your trucks like an order.
Go back to the stay in compliance by, I like that.
By reporting your trucks today, yeah, that's a little softer. Report your trucks today to ensure your compliance. We need to be careful when we say making more than 50 million, it's gross revenues, so we have to be more specific there. Some very specific suggestions here, which are really helpful. These are, I have to, it'll take a little bit longer to understand exactly what they mean. Okay. Instead of report now in truckers, check out the truckers website to see if you are affected. That's good. To get the most bang for the buck, I think hitting the words new, clean, commercial, and fleets covers ACF, CTC, and other ARB regulations. Good keywords. Report your trucks is too vague. There's something a little more specific about registering your existing fleet as the first step or something along those lines. Okay, so getting a little more nuanced about.
Just an interesting point that just always sticks home with me, registering your fleet, just so you guys know, and again, this is how we have to look at messaging sometimes. Under drayage, they always used to call it registering your fleet. As we integrated drayage into ACF and other things, a lot of people started saying, you know, a lot of people, when you say register, they think DMV. So we've actually tried to switch our language a little bit. And or I'm looking at Cecile up there. You only register a truck once, right? You think, oh, I've registered, I'm done. So just the things that we have to think about sometimes as we put these messages out. Again, the idea is great. I love the idea. Don't get me wrong. Whoever posted that, as I said, some great creative folks out there.
I like what Chris White put in here, incentives for trucks and infrastructure. That's very succinct. And then adding maps of charging and hydrogen stations, which I like that. And we can do QR codes in trade publications, not just for truck stop, but for, you know, another resource to give people a feel of is there charging in their area. Referrals to local dealers who can help with incentives. Ollie says the ZEV tour is very focused to hold events at the dealership.
What's the ZEV tour? Does anybody know?
I'm sorry.
I don't know what the ZEV tour is. Does anybody know?
Is that possibly the what was I just at a couple weeks ago, the Fleet Forward tour that you were referencing? That's the one tour I can think of. No, okay. All right.
Ollie,
Ollie, what is it? Yeah. Yeah, you should be able to talk. He's a analyst.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, maybe put in the chat what that is, that event. That'd be great. Bradley was asking about, aside from billboards, consider truck stop gas station signage. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that was part of this campaign. We are doing fuel pump toppers for those, which I think will be a really important part here with the QR code to get quick facts.
Can you hear me
So
now?
yes. Yeah.
All right, Ollie, great, thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Bruce. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so my name's Ollie Danner. I work with the California, with the San Joaquin Valley Clean Cities Coalition in Project Clean Air. I've done events for the last 12, well, 13 years. I did the Port of Stockton event. And I spent the last 2 or 3 years talking to dealers and salespeople and fleets. And I realized that, and you guys are doing the same thing here. I mean, you identified that a path to the fleets is through the dealerships.
Yep.
And so what I'm doing is basically hosting an event at the dealership where we bring in HVIP, the utility, the air district, a Clean Cities Coalition, and then a select exhibitors. And we feed all the fleets that come over. We give them tri-tip and chicken and salad and beans and salsa.
Hi, Ollie.
Yeah. So that's kind of the premise of the whole thing. We got really cool prizes. We have 6 ZEV Tour events planned for this year at dealerships in the Central Valley in LA. And I have about 20 planned for next year. And I did put in the chat, obviously, I want you guys there to bring your information. The comment about, being involved in bigger events, I get that. We are hosting 2 big events, but the ZEV Tour is really just about, getting the messaging to the fleets and through the dealers. And it's also an opportunity to train the salespeople at the dealerships as well, to talk about, because when I talk to salespeople, they don't always understand all of the rebates and the incentives and what's stackable, what's not stackable, whether it be infrastructure or whether it be vehicle incentives. So it's a messaging tour, and we're going to go out this year. Our first one's in August 6th in Peterbilt, and we're agnostic to the OEM and the dealer. So we're working with Peterbilt and Mack and Volvo and you name it, Freightliner. And so we're kind of, and we're not just doing 2 events like in one city, we're spreading it out. Northern California, Central California, Bakersfield, LA, Inland Empire, Orange County, and we're kind of spreading it out. So not only do the dealer invites their customers, but the dealer's also going to get other customers attending. So anyway, that's sort of the premise of the ZEV Tour.
Absolutely. And Ollie, keep us in the loop on that. As we've been saying, we do have some considerations on travel that we have to make.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, if there's something in Stockton, it might be easier for us to go there. We have a couple Southern California staff, maybe either we or CalStart, someone from CalStart can come. If you don't know, we mentioned Clean Fleet Advisor earlier, which is actually run through CalStart. They have I believe it's a Fresno office. They have a Central Valley office. They've made it pretty clear that, because it's proximal to them, they can attend some of these types of events. So, like I said, keep us in the loop. And if there's an opportunity, maybe we're already going to be in an area doing a one-stop event, maybe the day before or the day after or something like that. Again, just keep us in the loop. The dealer events, I agree, and I'm too far away that my boss can't kick me under the table, but I don't think she completely will. Dealers are really critical. I mean, I would like to support them as much as we can.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, that's the key, as much as we can. And, certainly we've done online events. So Cal Edison put on a webinar a few months back aimed specifically to dealers and especially those in their areas. So those are things to, again, think about as well. And Ollie, as you're dealing with these dealerships, maybe try and put some, to talk to them about, would you like some kind of a webinar? Put on a webinar for the dealers. It was really helpful when we did that through SoCal Edison. I always knew it was important. I never quite got the difference between just attending one of our, our regular webinars on ACF. But there are some things that really can be tailored to a dealership. So, the key, like I said, keep in communication with me. I think you have my email and.
Yeah, and but by the way, I am working with Valerie Thorson, and so the HBIP will be attending all of these events and supporting them. So you're already involved. You didn't know it, but you are. So
Is Valerie with CalStart?
what's that?
Is Valerie with CalStart?
Yes.
Okay. And so is there a plan to talk about ACF at all at these events?
Absolutely. Yep. And so I mean, to the extent that we have limited resources, I mean, we'll have a booth that we will direct people to, the ZEV truck stop. I mean, we're there to, disperse information. HVIP will be there to talk about the incentives, and Energize will be there. We're even bringing in Core as well to talk about those programs to the fleet operators and the dealers. So right now it's strictly HVIP. But as far as having a curriculum or a program to really talk about ACF, I mean, we will direct people to, a CARB website or what have you. But I mean, it'd be great for you to have a table or whatever there to address, and you can speak, I mean, I understand the regulations and I know the ACT regulations, but obviously you would do a better job of that than myself.
Only this is a little like the Bakersfield event we did a couple of years ago, I'm guessing, except that wasn't just for dealers. So
yeah,
you said tables and so forth. Would you do me a favor, please, and send me, to the extent that you know when and where the events are already?
Yep.
Send them to me. At least we can look at if there are any synergies. 20 next year might be a bit too many anyway.
Yeah.
Although again, if we can shoehorn something in with another event, or if it's close, it's in Sacramento, it's in the East Bay, where we could even make a day trip in some instances.
Yeah.
That might not be so prohibitive, so.
And I wanted to mention too that, we are planning one-stop events.
Yes.
We have 4 or 5 more coming up. So Ollie, I don't know if you've seen the schedule for that, but maybe Yusuf or Brianna can drop that in the chat.
Yeah.
Going to be, and it would be great if we could partner up in some way.
And then on the page, right, under events?
Yeah, that's what she's gonna.
Oh, I didn't hear you say the events page, drop it in, never mind.
Yeah, I'll send Bruce, I'll send you the calendar of events and you can share it with, yeah, so. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Maybe I'll just go over a couple more and we can wrap up. San Diego Gas and Electric launched their own advisory services today, and part of the program is to connect fleets to CARB and get them information on ACF. I've got a website here, sdge.com/TEAS. That's something we'll definitely look at. Good to give people step-by-step instructions. Step 1, determine if the regulations apply to you. Step 2, comply with your fleet, etc. We actually are doing that on the tips for advanced clean fleets webpage. So we've been trying to kind of fill that out and give those steps. We're going to continue to do that to give people more specific guidance on the order of how to walk through this. Okay, and then I'll just end here with Chris's. We might want to say many makes and models are available now, more are coming. So, okay. Okay, well, there's a lot more, and I just want to say thank you to everyone. This really is, we are listening. We will use this and probably do a lot of, we'll rework our messaging for sure with these great comments. So thank you.
Yeah, and then, so I did just say about the one-stop event, so I would like for you, when we send this out, we will send it out to the TRIG, the announcements on for the one-stops. Would love for you to share with whoever you can too. It was pretty well attended. Our last one was 300 people.
Yeah, we had about 220, 30, but like 350 something.
Oh, yeah, so about 300, I thought, I had about 300 people showed up. So it was great. So, but I am interested, James, maybe we can talk offline about suggestions if you're hearing something. We want that feedback too. We want these to be as effective as possible. So just to appreciate you all disseminating the information, and if there are any suggestions, I would love to hear. That I can call you James. So. Okay,
So.
yeah, that's it.
All right, well, thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time out of your day to attend this meeting. We really appreciate it. Look for the next meeting for next month. I'll be sending out that email out shortly, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.